You spent the first years of your life wide awake, learning faster than you ever will again, and you remember almost none of it. Not your first steps, not your first word, not the face that stared down at you for hours, every single day. Somewhere back there you laughed for the very first time. You felt fear for the first time. You learned what safety felt like, and then your brain erased it. Most people think the reason is obvious. Babies are too young. Their brains just don't make memories yet. But that answer is wrong, and the truth is so much stranger. Because the memories were there, you made them. Something just locked them away. By the end of this, you'll understand why the most important years of your life are the ones you can never get back. Scientists have a name for this: infantile amnesia, the strange, near-total blackout that covers the first 3 to 4 years of almost every human life. Think about that. 3 whole years, gone. The years you changed more than at any other time you will ever live. In those missing years, you learned to see, you learned to walk, you learned an entire language from scratch. You went from helpless to a small person with opinions, the steepest climb a human ever makes, and you kept no record of it. For over a century, the explanation seems simple. A baby's brain is unfinished. The hippocampus, the part of the brain that builds memories, is still under construction. No finished hippocampus, no memories. Case closed. Except in 2025, a team at Yale decided to actually look. They did something almost no one had managed before. They placed awake babies inside an fMRI scanner, a machine that watches the living brain light up in real time. The study was led by Tristan Yates, working under Professor Nick Turk Brown. They showed infants new pictures, faces, objects, scenes. Then a little later, they showed them again. And here is what they found. When a baby's hippocampus lit up strongly the first time it saw an image, that same baby was more likely to recognize the image later. The babies were forming memories, real ones, inside the hippocampus, the exact place everyone had said could not do the job yet. They scanned dozens of infants, some only a few months old, others well past their first year, and a clear line appeared in the data. And it started shockingly early, around 12 months old. Some of these infants were barely past their first birthday. The signal was strongest at the back of the hippocampus, the very same region adults use to recall their own past. So the old story was wrong. It was never that babies don't make memories. They do, which leaves a much harder question. If the memory was made, then where did it go? This is where it gets unsettling. The Yale team suggested something that flips the whole mystery on its head. Infantile amnesia might not be a failure to record, it might be a failure to retrieve. The memory isn't gone, it is still in there, you just cannot reach it. The file exists, the path that opens it has vanished. Imagine a vast library holding every moment you ever lived. And one day, someone walks in and burns the entire card catalog. The books are still on the shelves, you simply have no way left to find them. But why would your own brain do that? Why build memories and then bury them? The answer might be the strangest part of all. Your brain buried them because it was growing too fast. In 2014, neuroscientists Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto studied exactly this in mice. In a baby's brain, the hippocampus is exploding with brand new cells. This process is called neurogenesis. Thousands of fresh neurons wiring themselves in every single day. It sounds like a gift. More brain, more power. But there is a hidden cost. Every new neuron forces its way into the existing circuits. And as it does, it disrupts the delicate connections that were holding an old memory in place. The Franklin team proved it. When they boosted neurogenesis in adult mice, those mice forgot things they had only just learned. And when they slowed neurogenesis down in baby mice, the babies suddenly remembered. The forgetting stopped. Let that sink in. The very thing that makes a baby's brain a learning machine is the same thing that quietly erases what it learns. Your earliest memories weren't lost by accident. They were overwritten by the explosive growth that was busy building who you are. But neurogenesis is not the whole story. There is one more piece, and it is about something you did not have yet: words. Think about how you remember your own life. You remember it as a story. First this happened, then that. A narrative stitched together out of language. But a one-year-old has no language, no words to label the moment, no story to hang the memory on. In 2002, researchers Gabrielle Simcock and Harlene Hayne ran a now famous experiment. They taught young children to work a strange contraption, a magic shrinking machine that appeared to shrink toys down to tiny size. Months later, they asked the children to describe what had happened. But here is the twist. The kids had learned plenty of new words in between. Not one of them used those new words to describe the memory. They could only describe it with the words they had owned at the time. If they had no word for it then, they had no way to speak it now. The memory was frozen in a language the child no longer lived in, sealed inside a moment from before words could reach it. So three forces collide in your earliest years. A hippocampus still wiring itself together, a flood of new neurons overwriting the old, and no language to tie any of it down. And the forgetting is not instant. It is a slow, quiet fade. In 2014, psychologist Patricia Bauer at Emory University tracked that fade directly. She recorded 3-year-olds describing recent events: a trip to the zoo, a birthday. Then she followed those same children for years. At 5, at 6, at 7, the children still remembered most of it. But somewhere around the age of 7, the memories fell off a cliff. The early childhood that had once felt vivid simply dissolved. Bauer called it the moment childhood amnesia truly sets in. So the child remembers, and then the older child forgets the memories the younger child once held. You forgot twice, once as a baby and again as a kid. Which leaves us with something almost haunting. The years you cannot remember are the years that shaped you the most. You learn to trust or not to. You learned what love felt like, or what its absence felt like. You learned whether the world was safe. Every one of those lessons is still inside you, steering how you love, how you fear, how you trust. You just can't point to where you learned them. All of it sank below the surface, into a part of you that runs everything and shows you nothing. You are built on a foundation you will never be allowed to see. The person hearing this was assembled in a room you can never return to, by a version of you that you will never get to meet. You were there for the most important moments of your entire life. You just weren't allowed to keep a single one.